Hi, I'm Bhavesh, and in this video we are going to learn about MONMSG or MONMSG, which is also called as monitor message. Let's try to learn what is MONMSG in the basics of it and some minor details of MONMSG. Please note that this is a tutorial and beginners video of MONMSG. So let's begin. So let us look at our screen. This is a CL program which I have created before. As you can see, this is a very basic program where we are declaring some variables, we are changing the variable value, and then we are executing a command from the CL program. So this basic CL program, you might say that it might never get an error. But there could be an exception in terms of arithmetic exception. It could be divide by zero exception. It could be trying to access a program or trying to access a command in this case, which does not execute successfully, or trying to access an object in AS400 which does not exist. So if an exception happens or if an error happens, what will happen? The program will abort. If you consider that this is a very important program which is like a bad job or which you are trying to run throughout the day, or even if this is a program which is executed by users, in this case aborting the program is not a good idea. In any case, even if it is a simple program or a production program, it is better that we try to avoid aborting the entire program. Instead of aborting, what is better? We could show the error to the user, and we could try to handle it internally. If it can be handled, then we can write some logic in which we'll be able to handle it and not let the program abort. Why? Because if the program abort, whatever the program intended to do, it will never be able to complete. Also, the user will be left with a very bad experience that the program does not work. So instead of aborting the program completely, we can handle exceptions. Exception handling allows you to execute an alternate code. So the alternate code would be a backup kind of logic. So if the main logic does not work, then you have a backup logic. The backup logic can work in a different way, and it will allow you to complete the rest of the program that is remaining. The next of the lines that are yet to be executed, they can be executed. Or if it has to be stopped, it can be stopped gracefully. It can be stopped, the program can be stopped by showing a nice message to the user on the screen that there is a problem and we will not be able to continue, or there is a problem, do you want to use, instead of going through the normal route, do you want to do, instead of this, do you want to do something else instead? So we also have this concept of exception handling in other modern or advanced programming languages like Java and Python and many other languages. So let's look at exception handling before we go into MONMSG. So our concepts are clear. So if you look at the screen, this is a sample program of Java which tells you about exception handling. So the lines I'm highlighting, these are inside the try block. So the concept is, if there is an exception or if the code is not able to execute correctly, the code that is written in the try block is not able to execute correctly, it will execute whatever is there in the catch block. If there was no try and no catch blocks, then the program would have aborted, abandoned with a fatal error, and the program would have ended. Try and catch block here allows you to show an error. So here in this case, what the program is trying to do is it is trying to divide n divided by m. Now n value is 10 and m value is 0. So this is basically a divide by 0 exception that they have tried to emulate. So this is anyways going to result into an exception. So they have caught an arithmetic exception in this scenario, and it will show an error that divide by 0 is not allowed. And then the program continues. Whatever is written in the finally block, it continues. So this is a simple try catch block example in a programming language like Java. Now coming back to MONMSG or monitor message, we can use the same concept of exception handling but in our CL programs. So the CL program that we saw, the simple CL program, if for example this was trying to access an object which does not exist. So it might exist. So the object might exist when we are trying to, let's say, write the program. So when the developer is writing the program, he is expecting that the object is there. So that is given. But in real runtime, when the program is run, the object might be missing. Someone might delete the object, or the authorities of the object might change. or anything can happen in a live system. So it is always good to have a mechanism, exception handling mechanism, such that your program does not abort, but instead shows a nice message on the screen or executes an alternate code which can still continue your logic without aborting the program. So let's try to look at the IBM website of what the documentation says. So if you look at the documentation, it goes into details of what is monitor message. It is used to monitor the messages to escape. So escape means to execute some other code, escaping elsewhere. So the executor escapes elsewhere. It can be used to notify by using send program message. It can send a message to the screen that it can notify that there is an exception, or it can show a status message, and this can be sent to the call stack and other things. So let's try to jump to the examples. They have also given some examples here. If the CL program or procedure tries to move a data area that has been deleted, or an object not found, escape message is sent to the program by the move object. So this is the same example which I was talking about. If there is a work object or move object, or if it is trying to access an object which does not exist, if it is trying to put some data on the data area does not exist, or the authorities have been changed, or if there is a decimal data error, there are a lot of different exceptions which can come. Let's move ahead. So it says that using MONMSG, we will be able to redirect the program to take a determined step or determined set of commands or determined set of program statements can be executed if the exception or the error occurs instead of directly aborting it. So MONMSG can also have parameters. MONMSG follows it follows MSG ID, which is the first parameter. The MSG ID will be the message identifier or the message that you are trying to monitor. Now we will go to MSG ID, or what is message identifiers. There are predefined set of errors or exceptions that are coded into IBMI, which can be used to monitor, like decimal data error, like object not found error, like authority error. So these identifiers are pre-coded into AS400, the operating system or the entire platform. We will be able to monitor for specifics. Like for example, in Java, we monitored for arithmetic exception, which is pre-built. We can build our own exceptions as well, same as in Java, but we can also use the existing exceptions, and there are a lot of exceptions which are pre-built, which we will be able to monitor. There is a compare data parameter and there is a exec parameter. We may not look at compare data parameter today because this is outside of the basics. exec, however, is important. Exec allows you to specify where do you want to go. If there is an error, what should happen? Where should the program executor go? Which line should it execute? Let's look at this with a quick little example. So this is a CL program which is about, so this is a keyword of read loop. There is the first CL command RCVF. So RCVF is going to receive a file. So it is trying to read a file with RCVF. And just after RCVF, we have a mon message. So it is trying to monitor this message for the command which is written before. So this is the general syntax. First comes the command that we are trying to monitor, and we are trying to monitor if there is an exception on this line, and if there is an exception on this line, then what should happen. The mon message is always written just next to the command. So it is trying to it is trying to monitor this message, CPF 0864. So how would you know what is CPF 0864? Let's try to understand the example. If you go to IBMI, there is a command called as TSP MSGD. The full form is display message description. If you do F4, the first lower value, you can copy paste CPF 0864 and press enter. So you'll be able to see the full form. You can also input one over here. It will tell you the details of this exception. So what is this exception? CPF 0864, it says end of file detected for file &1 in &2. So when the actual message comes, when the actual exception comes, this &1 and &2 will get replaced by the file name and the library name. What is the main exception says? It says that the file end of file is detected. That means there is no content in the file. Or if the content was there, the reading of the content has been completed and the file is now, I have completed reading the file. There is nothing further. So this is an exception that the file read was complete. So if you look at the description, it will say that end of file was detected on receive file command. This condition will occur if the file is closed or the command has failed. So this is an exception related to file reading. Now, if you look at this exception, CPF0864, you'll be able to see where this is present. The top parameters will tell you that this exception is present in file QCPF-MSG. This is a message file in the library QSys. If I want to see what other messages are there in this message file and which all other message files are there, we will do it step by step. So work message file command wrkmsgf will allow you to work with the file, and with the file option we'll be able to see all the messages that are inbuilt into this message file. So as you can see, I'm doing page down and you can see that there are a lot of messages that are pre-coded into this message file. And if I go back to the command line, I have also executed a work obj command. So this work obj is for inside QSys, I'm looking for all objects of type message file. So these exception monitoring messages which are there, the message ID that we saw, CPF exception which we saw, these are stored in message files. Message files are MSGF parameter type, MSGF object type. If you see that there are these many message files already there in the system, so you can look at any message file. If I want to look at the COBOL message file, I can copy the message file name. I can again do work msgf and paste in the name of the file with work msgf and file option. I'll get all the exceptions that are there in this message. We can browse through which all exception messages are there and we can use the exception message that we want. So coming back to the CL program example, what the syntax means is when we are executing RCVF, if there is an exception, the exception is caught by writing this line. We are catching this specific exception. If it happens, then instead of performing rest of the program, whatever is there in exec is going to get executed. So what is there in exec? There is go to command label EOF. Whatever is there in EOF, that is going to get executed. So instead of EOF, instead of end of file processing, there could be some other label where we could write some code which should get executed if this exception happens. Note that if we would not have written this, the program would have aborted, or it would have just gone into the next line, which we do not want. If you see this specific example, they have created a loop. They have created a file read loop. So this is going to keep reading the file as long as the exception of end of file or the this exception specifies that the file has ended. So this is basically a loop that will go on until we reach the end of file. And once we reach the end of file, it is going to come out of the loop. So they have used exception handling mechanism to create a loop and a mechanism to come out of the loop. So it is not only used for exception handling, but also to govern our program flow. That also it can be used for. So there is another type of mon message which can be used or which can be declared at the top of the program. So if you declare mon messages at the top of the program, it will monitor for that exception or that message in any of the lines that are there in the CL program, and it will execute whatever is to be done if the mon messages are written at the top. So these are catch-all mon messages or global level mon messages. The mon message that you saw here was specific for the line above it. So there are other exceptions like divide by zero error, MCH1211, there is MCH3601, array index out of bounds, 3401, and so on. So there are a lot of machine errors which can come when we handle data handling and other things. For example, this mon message is written at the top of the program. So this is a global mon message. So if you see, there are two mon messages. So this is a range of mon messages, or these two mon messages are monitored. And this is a mon message for the specific command, command B, CPF0001. So this was a very basic introductory tutorial on what are mon messages. We do not intend to go into details and practicals. We saw some basic examples of MONMSG and how it is used and how it is similar to the rest of the world, like Java and Python world, where we have try catch blocks and exception handling. Hope you liked the video today. If you do like these videos, kindly consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.